Welcome to the Moonlight Real Estate Side Hustle and Syndication Show. I am your host, Eric Lindsay. Here at Moonlight, we choose to focus on achieving financial security through real estate. And today we are here with Curt Moore. Curt is the founder and president of Moat Title Security Company, dedicated to protecting homeowners from title identity theft through innovative, locally focused solutions. With a 30-year career in the energy industry, specializing in land management and governmental affairs, he brings a wealth of experience to his work. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Curt.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, well, no, I'm looking forward to the interview. So it sounds like you're really offering some great services to the real estate industry, to landlords, to homeowners. It's a great benefit, the things that you're offering. And so we just had a brief conversation before we actually went live, and to hear the products that you guys are rolling out and that you offer is absolutely remarkable. And so I'm looking forward to getting into the show. But before we get into those details, if you could share just a little bit more about yourself and also give us a little background on how you got started in real estate.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks again for having it on. I really appreciate your time, and I enjoy your podcast very much. I've listened to quite a few. Again, my name is Curt Moore. I'm the president and CEO of Moat Title Security. I spent the first 30 years of my career energy industry in Colorado. That career was all about property administration, land management, a heavy dose of legal contracts and ownership of property and leases, a heavy dose of public records, researching title, super complicated title opinions. So I've got a very good background in how property is owned and conveyed and how public records work. I retired from that in 2021 in the Denver area and moved down to Oklahoma City to be closer to my wife's elderly mother. It just made sense to get closer to her. So we moved down here. People ask me, well, how did you come up with the products that I'll talk about here today? Interestingly enough, when I lived in Colorado, my elderly mother was actually attacked by someone who was trying to fraudulently record a deed against her property, and that was my first experience, and that happened all the way back in August of 2014. So that's how was my first taste of what this type of fraud looks like, and that was when I began thinking about what could be done to proactively defend property owners from this type of fraud. Flash forward, my mother eventually passed away in spring of 2014. But from the time I became aware of the attack to the time that she passed away, I was probably on the cutting edge of monitoring title at that point. I would just watch the records and just see, did someone try to record something? And I even was very familiar with all of the staff at the county where her property was located based on my job in the energy industry. And I just said, hey, look, here's my mom's name. I'm concerned someone's trying to do something devious and record a deed against her property without her permission, without her consent. It's certainly fraudulent. And sure enough, they called one day and said, hey, look, some guy came in here and tried to record a deed, presented a deed to be recorded, and we flagged it, and he became quite upset and grabbed his package back and stormed out of the office. So that was pretty eye-opening to me of the steps people will take to commit this type of fraud. And you know, it's pretty remarkable. My mother was quite ill at the time. She had gone through many surgeries, and she was in tough shape. And I thought these are the people that these fraudsters are targeting. So it was pretty eye opening. But you flash forward, retired, and I've built a legal team, and we came up with what we call a notice of title freeze. And what that does, we've modeled it very much after what a credit freeze does for people that are familiar with freezing your credit at the credit bureaus. We want our notice of title freeze to perform as much as possible like that. So by recording a notice of title freeze in the public records, a property owner is making a statement that they own a property, They're the owner. Here's the property description. They're making a statement that says, hey, look, I own this property. I'm worried about fraud. I'm worried about fraudulent conveyances and attacks on the title of my property. So I'm recording this freeze to essentially stop all recordings until such time that I release that title freeze. And if any recording is made without my express recorded consent by a title unfreeze and release executed through Moat Title Security, that's fraud. So our belief is that people that are in the business of attacking property owners, at some point they're going to have to get in the public records to research who they're attacking, research the property, research the ownership, research the prior deeds, research if there's any existing mortgages. They've got a list of things they're considering, looking for high value targets. Our view is they're going to bump into that notice of title freeze in the public records. And if they take a look at that, our view is it's going to deter that attack and they're going to move on to another target. So that's the first line of defense, is just simple deterrence. But if they miss it, or if they don't care to read it, or if they don't care, and they record a fraudulent document against the property, the second line of defense of our notice of title freeze is to provide valuable evidence to the property owner to quiet the title and get that fraudulent recording expunged from the records. So if you're familiar at all, Eric, and your listeners, to how that works, if I was attacked, if someone recorded a fraudulent deed against my home here that I co-own with my wife, whether I've got a notice of title freeze or I don't, to get that out of the records, I'm going to have to get a recording from a judge. I'm going to have to get a judgment that says that recording is fraudulent and it's essentially going to be expunged from the records. It's essentially a quiet title action to clear and clean the title, make it clear title. We believe our notice of title freeze will make that a lot easier and a lot cheaper and a lot quicker than if it's not recorded in the public records. So that's our flagship document. We believe that's a much more proactive way of protecting your property from title fraud. There's really three things you can do. If you're aware of and curious about what can be done to protect yourself from title fraud, the first thing is probably the most prevalent thing is just don't do anything and just hope it doesn't happen to you. Maybe keep an eye on strange correspondence that's coming into your mailbox from unknown mortgage companies to names that aren't yours. I mean, there's some red flags that can be raised that could get you curious and get you thinking about, well, maybe something's going on here. The second thing, and really our competitors in the market, the product line is monitoring. There are any number of outfits out there that will monitor your title for a subscription fee, a monthly fee, or an annual fee. And they'll just notify you and say, hey, look, Curt, someone recorded a deed against your property. Is that you? Or is that something we need to look at? So again, that's better. I think it's reactive. I think it's better than nothing. I'm sure it's better than nothing. But it puts you in a position of chasing down the problem without any real proactive defense. If I'm a bad guy, I'm in the public records, I have no idea if there's any monitoring going on, and I probably don't even really care. But if I bump into that notice of title freeze, we believe that is going to give them pause and probably move them off to attack somebody else. It's on the monitoring front. I think it's interesting to note that a lot of counties are now monitoring title for free. The county that my wife and I live in down here in Oklahoma City does that for free, and it's not a robust county by any far stretch of the imagination. It's a pretty average county in a suburb of a metro area, and you just sign up for it, and they'll just tell you that something got recorded. And it gives you that heads up. So I think people that are interested in monitoring, I certainly start by checking to see if the clerk and recorder of your public records office will do that for free. And again, the thing about title fraud, recording a fraudulent deed in the public records is not the monetization event. what they do after they record that fraudulent deed, they're going to try to monetize that attack by either placing mortgages on the property as quickly as they can to try to cash out the equity in your home. It's very prevalent. Like in the case of my mother, she's elderly. She has a pretty nice home, no mortgage. Those are the low-hanging fruit that they tend to attack. Other techniques that they do, I'll record this deed and then I'll immediately try to auction the house off and just say, hey, look, I bought this house. Turns out I got transferred. I'm not really going to be able to move in there. I need to sell this pretty quickly. I'm going to accept the highest and best bid by Friday at noon. And, we can agree on title companies. We can agree on inspection. We can agree on title defects. We can agree on all that stuff. I just need, to get this under contract and a quicker closing. They make it sound really, really good. But they also kind of finish that with, to make sure that you're a serious buyer, I want maybe a 2 or 3 or 5% earnest money deposit. So they'll get a bunch of earnest money deposits lined up and stacked up, and then they'll just cash all that and take off. And the property owner is left with a bunch of people claiming, foul against, the current owner who had no idea that they've been attacked with a fraudulent deed. And there's a lot of cleanup, and that's going to take a lot of legal expense to get that all pushed back and resolved. So that's the monetization risk that you've got once they do record a fraudulent deed. We've got a ton of examples on our website at moattitlesecurity.com in our news page of people that have interacted with this type of stuff and the chaos that it causes. So again, to sum that up, for the notice of title freeze, we believe that's really the only proactive defense to title fraud out in the marketplace. Things that make Moat different. We're a small company. We're starting up. We're growing. We're currently in 7 states, with intent to be in all 50 states, hopefully by the end of the year. It's important that we consider our notice of title freeze against each state's statutes to make sure we're not recording something that could be ambiguous with state statutes as it relates to fraud or title and public records. So of the 7 states we're in so far, 2 states we needed to cite some state statutes to make sure we weren't recording something that would cause confusion if it had to be reviewed by the courts. So it's a little bit of a slower rollout. It frustrates people. We keep a pretty good backlog of people that have expressed interest in our products, but they're in states that we're not in yet. So we try to keep track of that and notify them when we are in their states. Other things that make Moat Title, I believe, different is as a small company, we our view for customer service is not to use 1-800 numbers and chat robots and rely on our customers and our clients trying to interact with us in that way. When someone interacts with Moat, they're going to be attached to a person, an agent, and that's going to be their point of contact. So they've got their email, they've got their phone number. They don't have to try to get on a 1-800 number and say, hey, look, I was talking to someone. Can I talk to them again? And oftentimes you can't because you're wandering through a call bank. So we want to have a higher level of personalized customer service. And we also believe we have an innovative and different pricing strategy. We don't charge a monthly or annual subscription. We just charge a one-time fee to prepare and record a notice of title freeze. And if you need to release that, we'll prepare that document and record that for a one-time fee. And the view there is, my personal view is, I just think consumers are just getting quite fatigued of always being hooked into a subscription for $20 a month here and $15 there and $25 there. And once you're on for a little while, it starts creeping up and up and up. Now it's 30. And, I certainly have experienced that. And I didn't want the Moat pricing model to chase that path. I think that's not beneficial to customers. So it's more of a pay for what you need and get that done. And then you're done until you need to do something different. So that's our, what I call our flagship document. I'll just stop there and see if you have any questions or comments before I talk about our other product line.
Okay, and so Do you recommend that a person or either a homeowner go and personally do a title check or to see if there's any person that's attempted to record on the title? I know that you said that there's an opportunity to reach out to the county and get some type of service in which they'll notify you if someone does attempt to record something on your title. What about a person as of right now? So if this is shocking to anyone that's listening, what would be the proper steps that they could do even without hiring your firm? Or of course they can always hire your firm, but what type of actions can they take as of right now?
That's a great question. That is a very, very good question. So public records are just that. They're public records. They're there for the public. And if you are concerned or you just want to check, you just want to become comfortable doing some research in the public records where your property is located, you can do that online. That's all online now. Or you could go into the office if that's convenient. Go into the clerk and recorder's office. Sometimes it's in the assessor's office. Different county offices place their records in different parts of the county structure. But you can just go in there and say, hey, look, I own this property. And I'm just curious if I could see the chain of title of my property to be sure that there's nothing attached to my title that's not real. And in my experience, most county offices are very, very willing and able and cooperative and friendly to do just that for you if you have the time to get into the county office to check your title. If not, you can get onto their website and poke around, look for property search, and you can search by address or legal description or a property owner name. Most people, I think, can navigate that and get to the answer. If you have questions, you can just be online and call the office and say, hey, look, I'm online. I'm trying to figure out what's recorded against my title. I'm struggling a little bit, and they'll generally walk you through the website and point you to where you need to click and go to see what you need to see. So to answer your question, people can definitely do this on their own. People with more of a real estate background or maybe more of an IT professionalism, probably a little bit easier, but I would say most everybody can do it if they're willing.
Okay, that's really good information. So if you could, let's go into the second piece. I know that you have two components that you guys really stand behind, and I was really impressed when you were explaining the details as to the squatter side of things that you're about to explain. That was really interesting, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for landlords to capture and to utilize you guys' services to expedite the process of being able to get rid of unwanted guests such as squatters. So if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure. No, we believe we've got, as far as I know, the only product in the market that is proactively claiming a right to be in and on your property. So the whole concept of squatters, it's certainly becoming more and more prevalent in the news these days. A squatter is going to claim to have a right to be in your property. And when that happens, and we've got a fair amount of articles on our website describing some instances of that across the United States. But when that happens, when you become aware that your mountain cabin or your rental property or your second home, if you think about someone that lives in upstate New York during the summer and they've got a second home down in Florida that they go to in the wintertime. So they've actually got two properties. At any given time, one of those properties is unoccupied. That's a high target for squatters. But when you become aware that someone's in your property, it's shocking. It's emotionally distressing, and you're really going to reach out to the local authorities and say, hey, look, I own this property, and I just discovered somebody's in there, and they have no right to be in there, and I want you to go get them out of there. Generally, how that transpires, Eric, is you're going to be contacting when I say local authorities, you're going to be talking to the police or the sheriff's department, they're going to send somebody out there to investigate. But it's important to note, if you're a sheriff's deputy or a police officer, your job and your swim lanes are crime. You're out there to consider, has there been an ordinance broken here? Is there a law broken here? It's all about crime. So they're going to go investigate, and squatters have become quite adept at preparing themselves for that interaction. So they'll just say, hey, look, no, I don't know why Mr. Moore or Mr. Property Owner is claiming that I'm a squatter. I have every right to be here. We've talked. He said I could occupy this property if I would do some maintenance and fix up some things and do some drywall repairs and get the property ready to sell. I don't know why he's claiming that I don't have a right to be here. Or they'll even claim, hey, I've got a lease. Maybe they created a lease and just show it to the police officer. But their first thing they need to do is get that local authority off the porch and off of them. So that generally switches in the mind of a sheriff's deputy or a police officer from crime to a civil dispute. And when it becomes a civil dispute, they're going to back out. They're going to report back and say, hey, look, I went to the property. They're certainly in there. They identified themselves. They've got children playing in the yard. They've got the house full of furniture. It looks like they're moved in. I don't. They claim that they have every right to be there. So I'm not really in a position as someone investigating crime here to evict them. If you believe they are in there and it's your position that they're in there without your permission, you're going to have to get a court order through some civil proceeding to get them out. And that's the unfortunate trajectory of what it looks like to interface with a squatter. And again, they're becoming better and better at and becoming more sophisticated about how they execute those attacks. So our view at Moat is again, let's use the public records to just announce to the public and state to the public and make it public record that, hey, in our product is what we call a notice of occupancy. And what that basically says is, hey, look, I've recorded this notice of occupancy because I own this home in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And whether I'm occupying it or not, I have no intent of anyone else occupying that property. The only way I would have a tenant of that property is if I recorded a notice of property lease. That would be done through Moat Title Security. But if in the absence of that, if anyone's discovered in that property, they have illegally entered that property and they're unauthorized occupant of that property, and I reserve the right to have them evicted because they, again, don't have a right to be there. And I reserve the right to seek any damages from them if they've harmed the property. So that gets placed in the public records, and the purpose of that is twofold. Very similar to the notice of title freeze. If I'm considering squatting in property owner Jones's property, at some point I'm going to go peruse around in the public records and just to make sure I understand who exactly owns this property, so I can claim that I have a legitimate lease or a legitimate reason to be in this property when the local authorities show up on the porch. When they research the property to get that detail as part of their attack, our view is they're going to bump into this notice of occupancy. If they're so compelled, they'll read that and they'll say, well, maybe this isn't our best target. It seems like this property owner is very ready and willing and able to defend an attack that I'm proposing to make here. And our view is shoo them off, deter them, move them off somewhere else, protect your property from them. That the first line of defense for both of our products is they'll see it in the public records. That's why we record it, and it'll move them on. If they don't see it or they don't care or they don't understand it and they attack anyway, the notice of occupancy, also similar to the notice of title freeze, provides valuable evidence that you can take to the courts to say, hey, look, Your Honor, I own this property. I recorded this notice of occupancy because I'm worried about my second home down in Florida being attacked by a squatter. Took this action to protect myself proactively as much as possible from this type of fraud. And look what happened. Someone's in there. They have no right to be in there. The only way I would have a legitimate tenant in there is if I would record a notice of property lease and identify them in the public records as a legitimate tenant. That did not happen. They're in there. And my plea to the court is that you give me an eviction in judgment so I can get them out of there. And we believe that's going to put a property owner in a much better position for a quicker judgment. Quicker is going to be cheaper, and it's going to be less emotionally exhausting and fatiguing to get them out if you can do that quickly versus if it takes months. And remarkably, if you read some of the articles on this, it can take 3-6 months to get them out. So we want to use our notice of occupancy for a quicker judgment to restore your property and restore your rights. So that's our view on that. And with that, I'll see if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah. So when you say quicker, what are you referring to? Is that a 30 to 60 days rather than 90 to 180 days? What type of timelines can you offer or suggest?
That's a great question, Eric. And it's all going to come down to where is the property located, and the judges in those states. Different states have different tolerances for all kinds of things. I think there's some states that are going to be much less tolerant if a case can be made that a squatter has overtaken a property and the legitimate property owner is being damaged. And I think there's some states that are going to be more methodical and lean more into, well, I don't know, I'm not sure I'm convinced that they don't have a right to be there. So it's hard for me to say, is it 30 days, is it 60 days versus 3 months or 6 months? Our view is, and we built this, the legal team and I have built this such that we won't want to present this case to a judge. And our best case scenario is the judge is going to say, okay, I've got this. I can put this on my docket. I'm reading your pleading. I'm looking at the evidence here. It's pretty obvious to me that you own the property, and B, you've recorded this notice of occupancy, and C, there's not been a notice of property lease identifying the party that's in the property now as a legitimate tenant. Our best case scenario is you could get what is called some kind of declaratory judgment. So it's in the chambers, didn't need to go to court. You can get your relief from a judge. I think that's possible, depending on jurisdictions and the attitude of a state. But in any event, I think it's fair to say that if I go to court with a notice of occupancy versus I go to court without one, I'm going to be in a better position to get a quicker judgment in my favor.
Okay. That's good information. So what would it look like to work with you from start to finish? So let's say that someone listening to this episode, they decide that they really are interested in your services and they want to move forward with you. What does the process typically look like for a new client to get involved with you? How would they go about connecting? Of course, through your website, but what would be the first steps and how would you take them through the process of getting onboarded and then getting to the end goal of removing a squatter from their properties?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. So clients that are interested, whether they're interested in protecting their property from title fraud, so notice of title freeze, or they're interested in protecting their property from squatters, so notice of occupancy, their first step is, I believe, they're going to probably going to find us on some search engine or some type of computer search. They may find us in advertising or social media, but however they find us, they're probably going to get funneled into our website. And there's a ton of valuable information on our website about both products, much of what I've just discussed in the podcast here today. There's a lot of good reading in there. There's an application process for both the notice of title freeze and the notice of occupancy in the website. They can certainly go through that to start the process of protecting their property from fraud or protecting their property from squatters. We've worked really hard to make that website user friendly. You're not going to bump into, like I said earlier, you're not going to get a flash of a chat robot trying to talk to you or, a 1-800 number. If you just need to contact somebody, you can reach out and say, hey, look, I'm interested in protecting my property in Oklahoma or Texas. And we'll just assign an agent that will be your one point of contact, and they'll reach out to you. Our view is to not fatigue our clients and customers with 1-800 numbers and chat robots. We want to attach a live human being, an agent, dedicated agent to each client, each customer that will answer questions and help with getting on board, getting through an application. These are recorded documents. So say you wanted to protect your home with a notice of title freeze. You're going to fill out an application. We'll process that. We'll prepare that notice of title freeze based on the state that you live in. And we'll prepare it for recording. And, recorded documents need to be notarized. So we'll set up either a personal meeting, if that's convenient, or if not, we can get those documents recorded. We use DocuSign, and all of our agents are notaries. So we will coordinate we'll place the document in DocuSign, give you with your guidance of what time is appropriate for that online meeting to occur and for you to sign those documents. We'll set that up in DocuSign. You'll get a message from DocuSign that meeting's coming up, how to log in, how to go about interacting with executing your document. We're trying to protect people from fraud here, right? So we've contracted with DocuSign. The first thing we need to do is confirm that you are who you say you are. So we're not even in that meeting until DocuSign can confirm your identity. We rely on third-party expertise of DocuSign to do just that. So you're going to need your driver's license or identification. And when DocuSign is comfortable that you're really the owner or you're really the party that's going to sign that document, then we'll come on board to the meeting and we'll watch you execute the document, and then we'll have the document set up with our notary block and we'll notarize it, close the meeting. We'll take that document and record it in the public records wherever the property is located, and when it's recorded, we'll give that document back to you. And you'll know at that point that your title is frozen. We'll give you a sheet of good information to know going forward, which includes, look, it's not just frozen from fraudulent recordings. It's frozen from everything. So if you think about a credit freeze, I've got my credit frozen. All of my most sensitive personal information has been lost probably 3 to 4 times in my life. So, my credit cards are being monitored periodically. I'll get notice from my bank that one of them is blown out, and they're going to send me a new one. And I think that's definitely better than they're out there charging and charging and charging. But the biggest risk to me is someone takes out a new loan or a new credit against my personal Social Security number and all my personal data. So I freeze my credit. And I think people should definitely consider that. That's the strongest thing you can do to protect your consumer credit from fraud, in my opinion. But what comes along with that is if I do need to take out a credit card or I'm compelled to take out a loan, it's going to get stopped in its tracks because that credit freeze is going to stop the credit agencies from processing a loan application. And whoever you're signing up to take a credit card out with or a loan, so you're buying a car or something using a loan, that's just going to get stopped until you release that freeze. So we'll advise our clients with notice of title freeze recorded that, remember, if you go to sell your home or you're going to place a new mortgage, replacement mortgage, or a second mortgage on your home, reach out to us and we'll help you release that freeze around the time frame of your planned closing, so it doesn't trip you up. We've actually had some clients freeze their title and then essentially forget that they've done that, and then they apply for a HELOC or apply for a second mortgage, and then they'll call in a bit of a frenzy, like, oh gee, I forgot I froze my title, and my title company just called and said they can't process this. What do we need to do? And so we'll walk them quickly through releasing that title freeze so that they can proceed and get that their legitimate transaction completed and recorded. And then when it's done, we'll refreeze it again for them. So that's generally the process of how people would figure out what we're doing and if they want to interact and how those interactions would happen, both for a notice of title freeze and a notice of occupancy.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you guys got a great plan going there, and you're offering some great information and also great services because there's so many fraudulent people out there. There's so many people looking to take advantage of honest, hardworking people, whether that's a homeowner, whether that's a landlord, and we have to safeguard ourselves. And so we need people like yourself that's fighting for us to help us protect our investments and also our personal property. So, Curt, hats off to you for offering this type of service and this type of program. Curt, we want to thank you for coming out to the show. You've been a wealth of knowledge. You provided us with some really good information and some insight as to how to protect ourselves. And really, it was good information for me to take in because I just didn't know there was a lot of guys out attempting to take advantage and record their names and company names and fraudulent names on your title and trying to take your property out from under you or cash in on some of the equity that you've accumulated throughout the years. And so that was really a breath of fresh air for me. If someone wanted to reach out and connect with you today, what would be the best method?
Again, I would reach out to moattitleSecurity.com. That's our website, and there's certainly places on there you can just send a message to us. You could reach out to me. My personal address is Curt@moattitleSecurity.com. I get a lot of messages from people that are curious about what I've spoken about today. And you're right, Eric. The average homeowner is just, for good reason, not aware that this is really even a thing. And when you look at articles about this, it's just shocking to read how they become aware of it, and then all the chaos and damage that is done by the attack. We're trying very hard to educate consumers that especially the target markets, more elderly folks, that have high equity or high value homes with high equity positions. Those are low hanging fruit. Folks that own multiple properties, vacant land is a risk. Things that you're maybe not just keeping your eyes on as closely. But we've got a business to consumer model that I've talked about extensively here. But it's also important to note that we're actively partnering with title companies and real estate agencies and property management companies. Those types of folks generally go through me, and at least initially, or my business development director to just offer our services through a business-to-business relationships as well. And again, we're a startup company. We're trying to get our brand built and our products out in the market. So we've got we're trying to get out there through multiple avenues, both a business-to-consumer and a business-to-business model. But listen, I really appreciate your time today. I really appreciate the questions and the opportunity to speak with you. And I would just part with I really enjoy your podcast. I really believe in what you're doing in terms of investing in real estate. I've listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and it's just it's one of those things, in my opinion, for real estate. I'm kind of off moat here a little bit, but I'll give you a plug if you let me. A lot of people are interested in investing in real estate, but they just don't know how to do it. And they've all got a friend or a relative that's doing it, and they tell them about it, and they're like, well, I should do that too, but I just really don't know how to do it. And, I was certainly part of that through my 30-year career, and I wish I would have. I listened to one, it was Zach Zimmer the other day, and I thought, that guy is essentially me, except he acted and I didn't. I was a W-2 guy for 30 years, high paying job. I certainly could have done everything that Zach did, but I just, was busy and just, for whatever reason, didn't do it. So I think it's really valuable what you're doing and the education you're affording people that are interested in investing in real estate. I just really, my hat's off to you for what you're doing. I think it's great.
Okay. Well, Curt, I definitely appreciate that. And yeah, Zach, he was a testament to see the things that he was able to achieve while working full time. And that's my secret sauce. I really have a heart for the people that still have W-2 income, and I still have W-2 income until this day. And I want to be a voice or advocate for those individuals that are working or business owners, but they're looking to get into real estate on the side. And so, hopefully I can continue to promote real estate education and the opportunity that real estate provides on the side of their W-2 or on the side of a business, and eventually being able to go full time if that is someone's desire, because some people actually love their W-2. And so I've discovered that as well. I've discovered one particular gentleman, he had a huge portfolio and had absolutely no intentions on quitting his W-2. He loved both. And so he was no longer dependent on the W-2 anymore, because his portfolio, he could have quit his job maybe 10 years before the recording of that podcast, but he loved doing what he was doing as an engineer. But hey, Curt, thanks for taking a look at the podcast, and we'll love to have you back on the show anytime.
Oh, I'd love to come back on. I wish you the best, and I appreciate your time.